Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Good afternoon. Hello, Josephine, can you hear me? Hello. Good afternoon. Can we all hear me? Okay. Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone, once again, and welcome to the final day of our web development fundamentals training. First of all, I want to congratulate everyone here. Some joined this training without knowing anything about HTML or CSS. And today you've successfully built web pages, styled them with CSS, and even created your own portfolio websites. And that is progress. So remember something very important. Becoming a developer is not just about finishing a course. It's about continuing to build. And today's class is not about introducing another programming language. Rather, today is about helping you think like a web developer. And by the end of the class, I want you to understand not only how to write code, but how developers approach problems. So, what are the learning objectives for today? So, by the end of today's class, you should be able to review some HTML and CSS concepts, as well as explain how websites actually work, how to think like a developer, identify beginner mistakes, and few persons from the audience will present their project to us. And also, you get to know what to learn next. So, to begin, I have a few questions. And yeah, this part, there's no right or wrong answers. I just simply want us to reflect on what we've been doing days now or weeks. So for question number one, I'll ask, who remembers what we learned on day one? Who remembers what we learned on day one? If you have the hands, I can just raise your hand now. Call someone from the audience. Josephine, Silas, I know. Am I audible? Can you guys hear me?
Sir. Yes,
Yes,
sir.
Okay, okay. So I asked the question, which is, who remembers what we learned on day one? If you remember, you can raise your hands and I'll call so you can answer. So, like I said first in the questions, there are no right or wrong answers. I just want us to reflect on this. So, if you remember what we learned on day one, you can just have a say. Okay, Josephine, and go ahead. Okay, Josephine, and go ahead.
We learned about the HTML, the tags, and hi, how to create a website.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Thank you very much for that, Josephine. So, like you rightly answered, on day one we learned about HTML tags, we did paragraphs, images, and we talked about links. So that was for the week one. And then for week two, what did we learn on day two, week two? Who is going to answer that? So, is Josephine still raising up the hand, or this was from the last time? Okay, let's go with I know. Please take out Shopper I know. I believe I pronounced that right.
Yes. On day two, we learn about how to create form using HTML.
Thank you very much. Okay, so Josephine, yes, your hand is still up. You want to say something? Yeah, Josephine, you can go ahead. Yeah, I still reached out.
We learned about the table role, the table data, description, the list, types of list.
Awesome, awesome. That is very, very great. So we appreciate the answers from you, Josephine, and also I know. So for day two, or let me say week two, cover things on forms, tables, and a bit of introduction to CSS and others. So to question three, this is going to be what did we learn on day three? What did we learn on day three? So day three that was last week. So what was treated in class? What did we learn? It's good to try. Remember, there are no wrongs or right answer. Just tell what you remember. Okay. So Josephine,
We learned about the navigation bar.
Okay, okay. So we learned about navigation bar. So do you remember the process to which we were able to create a navigation bar? Is Josephine still raising the hand, or this was from the last time? Or if you want to answer, you can just go on and tell us. Remember, we're able to create that navigation bar. Okay, so let me ask this. Do you remember what you did about Flexbox, margin and padding? And just tell us a little bit about what you remember about Flexbox, layout, sort of margin, padding, and some other things. Okay, it's like Joseph, go ahead. Yes, Mr. Joseph, they can go ahead, please. Okay, so for those just joining, I asked the question, which was, what did we learn on day three, which was last week? What did we learn? So if you want to answer, you can just raise the hand and I'll call whoever is going to answer. Okay, so Josephine answered that we did something relating to navigation right on day three. So the question is, how were we able to create the navigation bar? How were we able to arrive at designing the navigation bar? Okay, Joseph, you can go on. Your mic is still muted, Joseph. You can mute and speak.
I said we use HDM to create a navigation bar using nav bar. Nav, is it nav code to navigate around it by creating maybe like the home page, the home, the contacts, and others using link to link it up. Okay.
Okay, okay. Thank
Hello.
you for that. Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. Okay. So who else remember we did relating to Flexbox, margin and padding?
We said flex padding is the inner spacing, while margin is the outside space to give the space out to let there be space outside. Why flex box is used to justify the to the center, to the left, or to the right. That
Yeah,
is
that's great. That's great. Thank you for your answers. Thank you for your answers. So, looking at what we've done from day one to day three, and as a matter of fact, it's the portfolio projects that you're asked to work on. Look at how much you've accomplished, how much you've covered in those amount of days. Isn't that impressive? Yes, it is. And I would like you guys to give yourself a round of applause from your side. Good. Okay, so now for a quick revision, we're going to refresh our memory on topics we've discussed. So I'm going to ask again. So what does the word HTML, what does it stand for? What does it mean when you hear HTML? Okay, Josephine.
Hypertext markup language.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. So another question is, what is HTML used for? What is HTML used for? Okay. Jeka Shokwe, I know you have the floor.
Okay, it is used to create the structure of a web page.
Thank you. Thank you. So HTML is used to create the structure of a web page. Hey, another question is, can HTML make a web page beautiful?
No.
Okay. Okay. Luckily, Joseph. Joseph, you are muted. Unmute so we can hear you.
I said yes and no. HTML can also color and beautify the page, but not too well compared to CSS.
Hmm. Hmm. HTML can follow this the page, but not as CSS. Do you mind to
Exactly.
explain further what you mean by that? So for the rest of us in
Um,
the audience.
no, I believe they are talking in term of text to change the text color. HTML can also do that, and so as CSS can also do that too. But to it's just like HTML is just like a house. A house. You can paint a house, but the inner, like the sitting room and co, is going to be more beautified than the outside. So that is just it. So HTML can also change the text color, but not like the CSS code. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your answer. Thank you for your answer. Why? Uh, I'm not sure, but I think what you meant is that we can use HTML in combination with CSS when we write CSS syntax in like HTML, then we can be able to style the component on the web page. But directly, HTML cannot make a web page beautiful. So we still need things such as, okay, Joseph, you still have
Okay.
your hand raised. You want to say something?
No, no.
Okay, okay. So we use CSS syntax alongside with HTML by writing maybe inline HTML, CSS rather, we'll be able to style the components on the web page. So styling is, or let me say styling of beautifying our web page is basically the work of CSS. So now we move on. What does CSS stand for? What does CSS stand for? Okay, Frederick.
Okay, CSS stands for cascading style sheets.
Good. Thank you very much for your answer. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets.
Hello? Yeah.
Thank you. So let's go on to the next question. And that is going to be, what does CSS do? What does CSS do? Okay, Frederick, you have the floor again.
Okay, it is used to style and beautify a web page, give the web page design and color beautification, responsive layout.
Good. Good. So just as he has answered, CSS allows us to control the appearance of a web page. So from text colors to font style to layout to in general customizations that to do with the appearance of your web page, CSS allows us to control that. So now let's move on to something that has to do with properties. So which property changes text color? Which property changes text color?
I think,
But I know you said what? I think what you said the other time, I know. Do you mind going over it? Okay. So again, I'll ask the question, and that is, which property changes text color? Yes. This is more of a CSS thing. So, what property do we use when we want to change the text color that is being displayed on our web page? It's going to help us out with the answer. Okay. Because if we are to style the text, change the color, all you need to do is use the color property, COLOR property. Then you give it okay, Ryan. Thank you. The COLOR. Thank you, Ryan. So we use the color property to change the text color of our text on the web page. So the other question is, which property changes the background color of an element? which property changes the background color of an element. Background color. Okay, thank you. Ryan, can you write the syntax so we can get the syntax to change background color? Can you help us write the syntax out so that can see how it's change background color of an element? Okay, so I believe he's doing that. So while he's going to help us out with the syntax, let's proceed to another question for revision. And that question is, which property activates Flexbox? Which property activates Flexbox? Okay, Frederick.
I said the display flex property.
Display flex property. Thank you very much. So the display flex property helps us to activate Flexbox on our styling on our layout. So this is an excellent performance, and that means everybody has actually learned something from the training so far. So now we are going to make progress to the part 2 of this session, and here we will talk about how websites actually work in the real sense. So for this part, we're just going to talk about something that wasn't covered during. Sorry, give me a minute. Okay, sorry for that. Okay, thank you, Ryan. Okay, thank you, Ryan, for Brian. Okay, this is good. Thank you very much. So back to what I was saying, we'll be talking about how websites actually work, and we will talk about something you probably not noticed or something you've wondered about. So when you type in www.google.com into your browser, most people think magic happens behind, and then things just load up like very fast. But actually, it is a series of simple steps that involve to make that process of you entering www.google.com into your browser to make it work. There are just a few simple steps. And let's break it down. See, when you type into your address bar into your browser, you type in that website address in which you want to go to. So, for example, www.google.com, which is this address is called the domain name. So think of it like somebody's phone number. So instead of you remembering a long IP address, all you simply remember is just the google.com part of it. That's for the step one. So instead of you like remembering a long IP address, all you need is just that domain name, which is the google.com, which is similar to saying it's someone's phone number. Then we go to the step two, which is now the process where the browser sends a request. And when we're talking about the browser, it will be Chrome, Firefox, Edge, Safari. And when this process happens, the browser basically asks this question, like, please give me Google's website when you press in that domain name with the properties at the end of it. That's for the step two, sending a request. And the third step involved is that this request basically travels across the internet. And eventually when it reaches Google's server, it sends you a file back, which leads us to step 4. So this file that is being sent back to you, now they include things like your HTML, your CSS, your JavaScript, images, videos, the font that you use. So remember, we started from you using the domain name, which is similar to like having someone's phone number, and you send a request from your browser. So the browser can be of any type, Chrome, Safari, Firefox. You send a request trying to reach Google's server. And when eventually they get to Google's server, files are sent back during that process of requesting. So files are sent back, and these files, as mentioned earlier, they include things like HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript. The images, the fonts that we see when they are virtually back to us. And then to step 5, and this time around is when the browser that sends the request now reads those files that were sent. The browser sends a request to the server and then receives it back. So after receiving it back, the browser then reads those files. It uses HTML to create the structure, CSS to style, and then JavaScript to add interactions for the components or the elements of the pages. And finally, after this, the web page now appears on our browser. Then we see the beautiful colors, the text, and everything that have been shown. So these are the 5 simplest steps to break it down of how the communication of the browser fetching data from the server and displaying it on our system locally for us. So you look at the domain name, you enter it into your address bar, then the browser then sends a request to their server trying to fetch information for you. So when it fetches those information, it renders them on the browser using HTML for the layout, the structure, and CSS for the styling, and JavaScript for interactivity. So this is just how the website works. So now to ask as a question, can a browser display CSS before HTML? As a question, can a browser display CSS before HTML? And just raise your hand if you want to answer the question, and I'll call you. Remember, there's still going to be incentives at the end of the session. Attendance will be marked, and some other things we talked about. Okay. Frederick can help us out again with the answers.
Okay, I don't actually think it can display CSS before HTML, because if you look at some websites, before some websites load completely, or maybe it load halfway, it mostly shows the HTML first before it displays the CSS.
That's very thoughtful. So you're right. The browser cannot display CSS before HTML. HTML comes first, then CSS will style whatever HTML structure was created. So you'll be given a very fine answer to that. Fact. So we've done a bit of revision and we've seen how the website works, how the communication from the browser to the server, the client and the server communication works. So now we'll proceed to part 3 of the session. And this time around, we get to think and see how the developers view things, how we can think like a developer. So before that, I want us to mark our attendance. So I'm going to drop the link for the attendance in the meeting chat. So you can mark the attendance. And then we proceed to this part 3 of the program. So while that is going on, continue, then I'll just drop the link for you guys to mark the attendance. So now I want to tell you something that most beginners may not know. So a lot of beginners usually think that developers memorize everything. They think you need to cram and cram and cram everything. And the truth is, that is not the way it is. That motion is completely false. Professional developers you see today, they still Google things every day. They go on Google, they search online. Even now that we have AI around us, a lot of developers still ask questions online. They ask outside sources questions. So it is not a thing that you have to memorize everything. You have to cram everything before you become a good developer. Instead, good developers, professional ones, what they do is ask questions, they read documentations very much. And when issues come around, they learn to debug, they learn to experiment things. So what do you mean by debugging? So think of a process where you have an error in your code, and then you will now try to fix that error. You look into it, what is going wrong. This is the process of debugging. It's just you saying you want to find an error that exists in your code. So professional developers that we have out there, they hold the documentation, they Google things. Before the event of AI, we do have something called Stack Overflow, where developers would go to look for answers to questions that they might have. So it is not a thing that you must memorize everything. Rather, you need to understand the concept of how to make research, how to read documentations, and how to experiment with things. So the difference between beginners and professionals is not about memory, it's not about memorization, rather it's something we call problem solving. So the way a beginner will tackle a problem is very much different from the way a professional will tackle it. And this is what differs or separates these two. So suppose someone asks you to like build Facebook. Would you immediately start writing the code? Let me give a suggestion. This one is a free question to everyone. Would you just immediately like start writing the code if someone asks you to build the next Facebook for them? Okay, Frederick. Okay, so Blessing said no. Okay, Frederick, you can go on.
Okay, I think we cannot just start writing our codes immediately. We need to first get the layout, everything, we need to like picture the navigation bar, the hero section, everything, the semantics. We need to actually get them in line first before we start writing our code.
Good, good, good. So when we're asked to like work on something, we don't just immediately start writing. It's like you saying, let's say you want to cook now. If you want to cook, you won't just enter into the kitchen, you put the pots on the gas or the stove, you light it and wait for magic to happen. No, you will do things like, okay, make plans. What am I cooking first? How will I cook it? What are my ingredients? What are the things I will need to add? What are the things I don't have that I need to get? You need to put those things into place first before you start cooking. So the same thing goes when you are working on a project. You don't just um you don't just go about writing code without first thinking of the concepts that are involved in what you are trying to do. So great developers, they first break down problems into simple parts, two simple things first. Then they now start combining and joining knowledge together to form the bigger parts. So think of that same illustration of you building Facebook. Like before you build the whole concept, you first have to do something like, okay, what is the navigation going to look like? So you build that. What is the sidebar, the notification feed? All these things will be what you first build before you think of joining them together as a whole. So I've dropped the attendance link into the chat, and I'll go ahead and mark the attendance. So again, Facebook wouldn't just be you building a whole concept all at once. Rather, you start with small things such as the navigation bar, the messenger, the stories. You take them one by one before you eventually add them together. If you want to cook rice, or let's say you want to cook jollof rice or fried rice, you won't just pour your ingredients in at once. You add them little by little, little by little, till you eventually get the desired taste that you want. So the same thing goes for when you're building enterprise solutions. You build them little by little, join the concept together, and eventually they become something. And there's this quote that says, from small things, greater things do come. Okay, I'll check that. Thank you. From small things, greater things do come. So, like I was saying, from small things, greater things do come. So, when you are building enterprise solution, you just have to be very careful, break down your problems into something simple that you can work with, then eventually you start building on them, building on them. So, small problems they are very easy to solve. Should I say they are easier to solve instead of very easy? Small problems are easier to solve. So it is very important. Always divide that big project that you're thinking of into smaller modules, smaller pieces. Then you start tackling them one by one. So this is how to understand a developer's points of view when building projects. So before we go to the next part of the program, I would like to make mention of something, which is that by the end of the program, there's going to be certification for the participants who were able to participate in the program. And the certificate is just meant to show your record of participation in the training that was hosted by Anexcom Technologies, and as a proof that you also have something working on the web development journey so far. So the price for the certification is it's at 2,000 naira. So that's the cost for the certificate, 2,000 naira. So every other discussion, I think, will also be passed on to us in our respective groups about how to go about the process of the certificate. But I just need to mention that before we go on with the next part of the class today. So now let's talk about reading errors in our code. When you're working with, let's say, subjects like mathematics in school, and you're trying to solve equations that involve you handling things step by step. The process of math is basically step by step thing, and you're trying to do something step by step. The moment you encounter an error and your calculations are not adding up, it is easier for you to trace back where the error is coming from. And that is because the process was a step-by-step process. So when working with program, when writing code, it is also very important for us to be able to read errors. And this is a mistake that most beginners make. A lot of beginners ignore error messages. They don't know how to read them, so they ignore it. And the advice for us is to never ignore error messages. Instead, we want to read them. So error messages, they are there to help to understand where we can make changes in our code. So for example, if the image on your browser, let's say the image on your code is not displaying, what are the things you need to check for that situation? You look at things like the file name. Is the file name correct? Is the file extension correct? And what about the path, the location where the picture is coming from? So think of a situation where the picture you saved is like .png, but you are trying to display on your own code .jpg. The file format, the file extension is not exactly the name of the extension you have for your picture. So that's going to result in an error. Okay, is this saying, did you use the second link that I dropped? For those complaining about the page saying not found, this is the second link I dropped. The second link is working. Use the link I dropped at 2:44 p.m. That one is working for the attendance. So, like I was saying, if the image is not displaying, you need to look at these three things: the file name, the file extension, and the file path, the location where you stored the picture. You need to check them. So these are things that will help you to know what is going on. But before that, it is only the error message. If you pay attention to the error message, it is only that will signify to you where the error is coming from. And what about if your CSS is not working? Yeah, some people do have issues like that when they say that CSS is not working. And most times, the issue is about linking their external CSS to the page. Some don't get it right when linking their external CSS to the page. And sometimes it's even spelling error. Let's say you're trying to link style.css and you save it as a lowercase style. Then when you are trying to link, you're calling it uppercase style. This will eventually result in an error and your CSS won't load. So let's try and practicalize this one now. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen with us and then you can see what I'm trying to say about the images of the thing and also the CSS were not working. Okay, so I've shared my screen now and I am in my text editor at the moment. So let's do that with images code. So I'm just going to add an image tag at the bottom here, image. Oh, sorry, img instead, not image. img. And inside here, yes, I'll see requires the parts of the images. So my images are stored in this folder here, and then this is the name of what I'm looking for. For instance. So I'm going to say images. You see the folder has been opened, and this is because of the kind of code editor I'm using, which is VS Code. So let's just continue with this, save it, and check it out on the browser. Okay. So you see we have a picture of a cat loading up here. So the picture is showing. So what if we do something like renaming that? So instead of using JPEG, let's change the file extension to something like PNG instead. PNG. But if you note, we don't have the cat.png in our image folder. So you see the image is not showing. We'll just have this icon that we're using a picture. So how then do we look at these errors? How do we debug them? So one of the things you can do is use the dev tools on your browser. Dev tools on the browser. So I'll just right click on here and click on inspect. So you get an interface like this. Then you can easily come to your console. So because I'm using live server, which gives me like local environment, it is already beeping to me that failed to load resource. So if you're not using a live server, you might not get this error message directly. But this is telling me failed to load resource, meaning a 404, it cannot find the picture at the moment. Cat.png cannot be found. So come to this part on network and refresh. So by refreshing too, you see cat.png here is giving us a status of 404. And when you see 404, it means not found. So it can't find the picture that we're trying to use. So by clicking on it now, I get a preview that says cannot get images from this part that was specified. So the picture does not exist. So for you to be able to debug your code, if you have any issues trying to display a picture or something, you can just come to this network tab. If I'm using something like a picture or even your CSS, and then you'll be able to see, okay, the things that are visible and the ones that are not working. So let's say we change the picture back to the normal format that it was, JPEG, and save. Then we head back into our tab, to our code rather. You see now, we are no longer getting a 404. In fact, the status code is giving us a 304 with a green dot. So it can locate the picture at this point in time. So you have to just pay attention to the error messages you are getting when you are working with your program. This will help you to debug faster and way more easier. So what about if your CSS2 is not properly linked? Your CSS is giving an issue. So currently our CSS is a lowercase style.css file. So let me change the naming to an uppercase like this. Then go back into browser and refresh. Okay, even with this, we are getting a style.css, which should not be because the name has changed. Let me do this stuff. Okay, now. So now it can't find these when we've linked it because from our folder structure, there's nothing like this that was named here. We have a lowercase here, and here we have an uppercase here. So you cannot find it. It is returning a red back to us with a 404 of not. So this is just to illustrate to us how these bugs can be resolved. So you just come back, okay, look at the name that you used, then you change it back to where it was in the right sense. Go back to your browser, look, can see our CSS now back. So what if your layout is broken? That's another thing that gives beginners a lot of error. What if your layout is broken? What if your design is not giving you the right thing? So one of the things you need to look at is, did you close your tags properly? Are there no missing closing tags? So missing closing tags most times will result in having a broken layout. Let's remove this. Let's clear this part out now and go back to our browser and check out the event of pop-up. So you see, this is not good at all. So we have to pay very close attention to our naming conventions, to ensuring we've closed our tags completely and at the right place. So this will help us prevent layout issues, broken layout issues on our web page. So every tag you open must always have a closing tag. So for avoid elements such as things like BR and HR, we know those ones don't need a closing tag, but every other tag that has an opening must also have an end when we are writing our code. So we need to ensure we close our tags properly. So one thing you have to notice is that most bugs are just small mistakes that we overlook. Small mistakes that we overlook that fall out of an oversight. So you just have to pay usual attention, more than usual attention, rather, when we are working on a project. So I believe so far we've been able to understand things that can help us with designing on our code and also give us a better insight to understand how things work, how we can think like a developer, and how we can debug issues. So now let's talk about clean code. Clean code. Or what is the concept of clean code? Yes, imagine you are working in a company and then another developer opens your project. The question is, what should they see? What should they see? And if you have to be honest, the answer is to see a neat code. Yes. So if someone new comes into a company you're working with, you're assigned on the same project, they should be able to see a neat code, something understandable with proper indentation, meaningful file names. And what about folders being properly arranged? So all these things are what we need to put in place when we are working on a project. Ensure your code is neat, you have the proper indentations, meaningful names, and also your folders are arranged properly. Yeah, one thing that can also not be emphasized is the use of comments in our code. So when you use comments, so they would help the other developer that is coming on the project to have better understanding and be able to move on with the project faster to with you as you work. So look at an illustration where you have a folder structure that contains things like bad.html, new.html, style2.html, and so on. A lot of naming conventions that do not really point to what you are doing. So this will leave other developers confused. But let's say you have a name that addresses the kind of file, the kind of concepts you're working with. Okay, your about page now, you call it about.html. Then your styling, you can say, okay, you want to style separately. You have an about.css instead of a generic style.css. You have different styling for, different style file for each page. So this will also help you organize your code properly. And you have your pictures saved in maybe image folder or assets folder. All these things, they look professional. They are what will make your work stand out to people, and you will get your flowers, like professionals would say. So, like I mentioned earlier, comments cannot be overemphasized. We need to make very good use of comments in our code. This will help to give even ourselves better understanding of what we are doing, as well as whoever is going to help us join the team in the future. So now we've explored things on the fundamentals of HTML, CSS, and we've seen how we can use them to create beautiful interfaces as well as layouts for the front end of the website. And we've also learned the basic steps that involved to reach how a website works, such as the communication of data from your client side, the browser, to the server, where they get to fetch information and display them back to you on the browser as well. And also, we've been able to see how developers think, how professional developers think, how they break down problems before they tackle them. So problem solving isn't about memorization. It's about breaking your work into modules that give you better understanding of the concepts you are working on. And then even if any error happens, you'll be able to debug, you'll be able to experiment things out. And most importantly too, great developers that you see there, they read documentations very well, that they can understand what they are really doing. And we've also seen how we can read errors in our code. So if anything happens by surprises, we know where we can go to and look at bugs and fix them. And we've seen the importance of having clean code, which will help assist us, and also we look professional, someone that understands what they are doing. So now is what I see the final part of the session, where we are going to have a review of what we've done so far. So I would love to have like 3 persons, or even let's say 5, who can showcase to us the portfolio websites, the projects they were asked to work on, so we can have review and analyze the whole concept of how they were able to do it. So you can raise your hands. I'll pick people who are going to just review the websites that they were able to build, and we can see where improvements can be made on these things. Okay, is anyone going to do that for us? You can just raise your hand. It is not under compulsion. I would just look for voluntary something, so you can review the project. Okay, so I'll give us moments to think about that. So anyone who's ready can just raise their hands. So now let's just do a bit of some other reviews that we have. So we are going to look at a few websites. Then we ask questions. You guys can review them from your end. So I'm going to share my screen now. So I'm going to share my screen and then go to something like let's go to Google. Okay, so now we're at the search, at the Google search page. So, as a developer, I want to ask a question. Why do you think the logo is in the middle? Why do you think the logo is in the middle? Do you have anyone who is going to answer that for us? Why do you think that logo is in the middle? You can just raise your hand now. Okay. Okay. Frederick, go on.
You said why the Google logo is at the middle.
You said?
You said why the Google logo is at the middle.
Yes. That I asked the question that why is the logo in the middle?
It's probably maybe due to the CSS styling. Align content center or align text center.
Okay, okay. So you're saying they're able to achieve that by doing things like text center, justify
Yes, text
content.
center. Yeah.
Good, good, good. That's good. Okay. So okay, what if I actually let me say from a design perspective, anybody else from the audience, why are there only a few buttons, only a few items on the screen here?
I would say that's what they want us to see.
Okay, I think I was. Yeah, continue.
Okay, that's what they want us to see. Most of the stuff are hidden from our from the viewer's perspective.
Okay, so I would say I also agree with that. So they're only showing what they want the users to see. They are not bugging us with too much information here, because the purpose of this is just for us to search on their engine, just to search. That's the basic purpose of this thing. So they are not bugging us with too much information for this current screen. Okay, so let's review another one. This time around, let's go to something like this. I just want to put the okay. So now we have Amazon. The question to the audience: why do you think they have a navigation at the top? Why do you think they have a navigation at the top? These are things we've come across before. But why do you think they have that navigation bar the navigation at the top of the display? Can just analyze this thing. It's it's what will help you to as a developer to understand how this concept behind web development works. So, for example, we've looked at Google's page, the google.com page. The purpose was used to search. So they don't need to put out a lot of information. All we have to do is enter the keyword we're looking for, and it take us to the result page. And when we come here to Amazon, we have a navigation at the top of the screen. It's simple. Basically, your navigation shouldn't be somewhere where the users will have to trouble themselves before they can find it. It should be somewhere easier for them to locate so they can go to other pages that you have on your website. And that is usually advisable to have it at the top of the display. So even when they are scrolling, it does not scroll with every other item on the page. So it is fixed there, and then they can choose to navigate to wherever they want to navigate. So, and if you go there, let's say we come to any of these items, they have these buttons yellowed out. So this is just to draw attention to details, just to point to user what and what to do. So imagine if everything was written in black and white. You have a hard time finding out where the hard button is or the buy now button is. So having a color variation between the components on the screens now can see okay which is a button, which is a text, and which are other designs on the page. So the question we can ask ourselves anytime we're trying to design or you're looking at samples online is think of the design. Why is this thing so much like this? Why is the font like this? Why are there a few menu items? And what about white spaces? You can ask why are there so much white spaces like this? So when we look at all these things critically, every design decision has a purpose that it serves. So every design thing, every design concept that you see has a purpose it serves. So developers need to think before they build. So you know your purpose of designing of developing is to give your audience an information passed down to them. So you also have to present your design in such a way that will pass this information to them without you losing context of anything they are trying to tell them. So that is for that the live review of websites we've seen. So there are a lot of websites too. We can go online, search them, look at how they were able to get the concepts together. Okay, why did they have this picture here? Why is this one bigger than this? Why is this one smaller than this one? And also look at their choice of font, their choice of colors. All these things will help you to understand building properly. So now back to our project showcase. Let's just have 3% show us what they've been built. It's not something that's going to take time. You can just go on for 3 minutes. Tell us your name, your project, and your favorite section when developing that project. The one that taught you something, the one that probably felt difficult, and one thing you've learned. Just 3 minutes. So who is going first, or should I call names? Okay, so I guess we'll start by just calling names then and see who's just going to present to us the projects they've done, which was, let me see, the portfolio project and things you've learned from it and which part felt difficult to you. And also just tell us what you've learned. Okay, so let's start with you, Frederick. This is not like a defense section, it's just a section where we can see where we can make improvements in our projects. Nothing really complex like that.
You are talking about projects. I don't really get, because the last I didn't attend the last class.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, since you didn't attend the last class, okay, let me just ask, from the previous sessions we've been doing, what are the
Yes.
things you find maybe difficult, or the things you've learned that you want to make improvements and want to share with others too?
Okay, I think I'll try improving my responsive layout in my CSS, because that's where I'm having issues.
Mm.
Yes.
That's good. That's good. So you've seen what you need to work on. So you just have to look at samples, examples of others that, okay, this is how this layers can be done.
Yes.
Make your research and all that. So thank you very much for that, Pedro.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so the next, let's go with Olakunle Joseph. Just tell us something you found difficult and what you like to improve on.
Actually, I'm just on my system now, but I have issue like the last assignment. I tried to create the button link, but it's showing error code. But I tried to do another project using General Hospital as the title. The button link works, so I'm kind of confusing. But I'm trying to. It's still rebooting. Oh, question. Let me just. Oh,
Oh,
question. Okay, okay. Just a minute. It's still rebooting. Okay.
okay. No problem. Once it is ready, you can just raise a hand, then we'll call you.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Mhm.
Okay. So what about Rahim? Rahim, do you have anything you want to say? Probably something you've worked on, you've learned, and you want to share with others too. Is Rahim there? Okay, let's move to another person. Josephine.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Rahim, you can go on. You can go on then.
I was having issues. That was the previous assignment for the last one, because I did attend the last class. I was having issues with like placement of photos. I think that was explained using Flexbox, so I already researched on that. That was before the class
Okay.
last time.
Oh,
And like the
that's
image was usually going under the text, and I wanted the side. I also learned about various sizing of text and all that instead of just sticking to the H1, H2, and H3. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, have you been able to fix the layout issues now with the images and text?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's very good. That's very good. So we can all see now that there is always need for improvement. There's always going to be a need for improvement too.
Sir,
So, okay, Josephine.
I have a question about creating a web page
Okay,
in that
what's
lesson one.
okay? So, what's the question?
How does that how does HTTPS, all these www websites, how do they show on the browser? I've been trying to do it, but it's not showing on the browser.
Okay, so you're asking about how the HTTPS stuff do come up.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay. So we talked about how um, um, we talked about how the communication of information from the browser side to the server side worked before, which was when we mentioned the stage that involved in um, how the websites actually work. Okay, so let's just talk about the steps one more time. So there we talked about, let's say you open your browser now and you type in something like www.google.com into your browser, and we're able to break the steps into five. Yeah, five. So the step one is when you type in that website address, that www.google.com, this address is also called like the domain name. And it was mentioned that you can think of the domain name like someone's phone number. So that domain name is like a replacement, not really a replacement, but something readable, even readable, that represents a long IP address that was assigned for the website. So the domain name is what you input into the browser, which is the one you simply can remember that you input into the browser instead of the long IP address that was assigned. Then when you now input this domain name into your browser, the browser will then send a request. So your browser can either be Chrome, Firefox, or anything. It sends a request to the server of whichever domain you've entered. So when this operation happens, when the sending of request happens, information travels wild across the internet. So it needs to locate the specific server in which you are wanting the request from. So when this request gets to the server also sends back a response to the browser that made the request. It's like when you ask someone for question. I mean, when you ask a question from someone, they will definitely give you an answer back if they have it. So when the browser makes a request, the server sends back a response, which is now the HTML, the CSS, and the JavaScript that have been rendered on the web page that we have. So when you also ask something, if you look at websites, we usually have some that have HTTPS, the HTTP. So the HTTPS is the transfer protocol. So the one that has S is referred to as the secured network, while the one without an S is the one without a secure network. It is said to be vulnerable. So when you see HTTPS, it's a transfer protocol to on the internet. So as I was saying, when the browser now sends a request to the server, let's say you have the information now, you return it back to the browser that asks you for something. So after asking and getting the answer, we cannot directly see this information that the server sends. So the browser now breaks it down, render them using the HTML or the layout, the CSS, and then the JavaScript for interactivity. So when this happens, is when the web page now kind of appears on our browser. But if you look at it, the operation we've explained kind of seem complex, but it works very fast on the browser. And this is all thanks to the big developers that work in the background, how they were able to think to make all these things happen. So even when the sharing of information looks like taking too long, we don't get to sit on our side. We just type in something into the browser and boom, we have the response back to us in seconds. So I hope I've been able to answer your question, Josephine.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, you're welcome. So do we have any other person that wants to tell us probably something they've overcome while working with HTML, CSS fundamentals for the past couple of weeks that we've been on this training? Okay, I know. Check out Shopee, I know. I believe I got that right.
Yes, I get it. Then one place that
Okay,
I find
so
difficult is how to use CSS to add image in our website.
okay,
How
how
to
to use
use
CSS to add image?
yes.
Okay, so let me ask again. Are you trying to add the picture to the image to show on the browser directly, or you are trying to
Yes,
add it as a background for something?
yes, how to use it to add it as a background.
Okay, so if you are trying to use it to add as a background, you need to use the background image property in your CSS. You need to use the
Okay,
background image property in your CSS.
okay.
So let me do sharing of screen just to show everyone else. And thank you for asking the question. So with this, every other person can also see what they can make improvement. So let's come here, let's remove this picture. She won't be disturbing us. Let me go inside the CSS now. So let's just style the body. So let's give our body a width of 100%. I want us to pay attention to this part. Then we'll say background image now. So background image, use the URL to tell the location where you are getting the image from. So since our picture is from images, then cards like this. So let's save this now. This is basically what you need. Background image and the URL to tell the location where the picture is coming from. Then we go back to our browser here. You can see now we have the cat image as the background for our web page. So does this answer your question?
Yes,
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, are you still raising your hand for the previous one, or you want to ask a new thing? I know.
no.
Okay. So whenever you're working with code, maybe as a beginner or an intermediate, it is always important to review the mistakes. So one thing you need to avoid, the line break, the BR that we have for line break. Some do use it for spacing, but instead, don't do that. It is best to use the margin or padding for spacing. Don't use the line break. And also, when you're working with styling, some prefer using inline CSS everywhere. Well, that's professionally, it is advisable to use an external CSS. So you have your HTML code organized one side and your styling organized on the other side. So even if issues occur, you know which file to touch. And also, you need to pay attention to the naming conventions you are using. So when you are naming files, name them based on purpose, based on what they are doing, not just any name that you can think of. And always organize your files, always organize your folders. HTML in one folder, CSS the other, and your assets too. Have them in another file. This will help you have a proper code structure that anyone can go through and be able to understand properly. So we've talked about coding, beginners, and everything. So what do you think is the next? What's the next line of action? So this training, you've probably enjoyed all the sessions, and we've seen the roadmap, HTML, CSS, then attaining responsive designs. So this does not stop there. It goes on to things like JavaScript, things like Git, GitHub, Bootstrap, learning React, learning backend, building projects. So all these things are involved in the next step. But the advice is do not rush. Just master one at a time. Then you proceed to the other. Master one at a time and you proceed to the other. So to create, okay, Luckily Joseph asks, to create a website, is it free? As well, it depends on the purpose. If you're creating a website for your own side projects, you can be able to get some free resources. Yes. Or if you want to create a professional website, let's say for business or an enterprise, then you need to make use of professional services and technologies too. But to write your code, to write your CSS, or JavaScript, those ones are basically free from your own knowledge. But then to put them online for others, that's when you need to decide, okay, is it just a side project that you can post in some free resources? Or is it for commercial use that you need to set up professionally? So have I addressed your question? Okay, good. So if you are building side projects, you can use things such as GitHub pages to host your web page. You can deploy on Vercel and a lot of other resources too. Those give a reasonable free tire that you can work with. So always remember, as a beginner, 10 things you must remember. Google is your friend. Build more than you watch. Build more than you watch. Read documentations. Read documentations. Read error messages. Build projects. Ask questions. Ask questions. They are very important. CSS is best used for designs. CSS code designs. HTML, they help you to structure your web page. And most importantly, never stop learning. Should never stop learning. So when we do all these things, we eventually get to move from a stage where we view ourselves as beginners to being a professional. Okay, so Silas, you asked a question, Amarachi, Silas Amarachi. This website and coding, is it possible with phone? Because I have tried creating with SPC editor, but it seems difficult. Well. To create websites and to code, it is possible with phone. But just like you've come to realize, it is very difficult to do because you have a very small display to work with. But it is very possible for you to create websites and even to code on mobile phones. But for a better experience, it is advisable to get a laptop so that you can be able to code properly. and even to be able to avoid distractions that come with using your phone. So coding on phone, it is very possible, but it is just difficult at one point in time. Okay, do I not want to say something?
No, no.
Okay, okay. So I believe I've been able to answer the question about coding on the phone, right? So it is very much possible to code on the phone. This is just the difficulty that comes with you having to manage a very small display. Do we have anyone that also wants to ask a question? So if you have a question, you can just write it down in the chat here. If you're someone who's shy and doesn't want to talk, and just write it down in the chat and we'll read it out and answer together. Okay. Is it possible to use? I believe you want to say something about div and nav, right? Yeah, it is possible to use div and nav. Yes, together. And using Bootstrap, do we still require CSS as a whole style? So for Frederick, you asked if with using CSS, do we still require, using Bootstrap, do we still require CSS as a whole for styling? Well, if you are using Bootstrap, then since Bootstrap is an advanced framework for styling, I don't think you require to use to have it to write your own CSS separately or as a whole. You just need to have the basic understanding of CSS before you progress into writing or using Bootstrap. But once you have a grounded foundation with Bootstrap, yes, you are good to go on. You don't require having to rewrite CSS as a whole for styling. Okay, the third question, give me a minute. I'm going to answer the third question too. Yes, with Bootstrap, you'll be able to convert responsive layout. Yeah, yeah. So, the question about YouTube channels, I would advise you to watch regularly. The thing is, there are a lot of YouTube videos out there, and what they lack is usually, should I say, a proper structure, proper outline, learning outline that you can follow. Most just jump into things and start coding, then they leave you to watch and cram things. But if I am to suggest, I would probably suggest something like Travesty Media. Yeah, Travesty Media. It's a very good YouTube channel that you can watch. But if you are serious with progressing into learning web development, way beyond front end, way beyond back end, you can as well just reach out to us at Anetcom Technologies Academy. So we also have a structured learning program that you can follow. So that's if you want to continue and progress on with this journey as a web developer. So you can also be one of the professionals out there. So you can join us with any of our programs, and we offer a wide range of courses too, from basic front-end development to the advanced front-end development, where you get to learn about other technologies that are involved in building websites. So that's for the YouTube channel advice. So Travesty Media. Okay, Samuel, is that right? Did I get that right? Okay, Samuel.
Yes. Okay. Okay. I was going to ask the question about YouTube channel, and you said we can also reach out to Anetcom. Okay. So on to this structured layout, is it free or do we have to pay? And for someone like me who is a student, is it student friendly? Is there a student package for me as a student?
Okay. So the thing is, when I said structured outline, I meant a structured learning program, just like when you attend an academy. So we have a cohort where you learn based on the duration. You learn with us, we code, basically teach you front-end development. And as you asked, it is free. It is actually paid. It's a paid program. And we also offer discounts based on a few things. But the best is you can reach out to us first, then we'll be able to determine whatever progress we'll be doing after that. Okay, welcome. So as mentioned earlier, I think I talked about a certificate of participation. Yes. So it is very much advisable that we get certificate of participation to show the progress we've made for the past 4 weeks now, 30 days, and this free training as a proof of engagement for other persons out there too. This is what we've been able to accomplish so far. And also, before we end the session, I just want every one of you to remember this, that the websites you've built during this training are not perfect. They are probably not perfect. And that's completely okay. No developer writes a perfect code on their first attempt. And the difference that exists, the difference between people who become great developers and people who quit is very much simple. The ones who become a developer, the great developers, they are the ones that keep building. And the other one who quits, they are the ones that just stopped along the way, need the struggle. So don't stop. Yeah, don't feel like this is the end of the training, you can stop. Don't stop here. You can continue building projects. Build one project after the other. Keep learning. Just like the things you must remember as a beginner, learning never ends. So you need to keep learning. And there's this quote too: keep feeling, but ensure you feel better. So when you learn and you feel you kind of not making progress, the progress should still have a bit of learning involved in it. So when you keep learning, keep feeling and keep feeling better, keep improving every day. And very much one day you look back at the portfolio you currently have and smile because of how far you've come. So I want to thank everyone for the commitment throughout this training, and I wish every one of you success in your web development journey. And a big congratulations on completing the web development fundamentals with Anetcom technology. Okay, so a question from Olakule Joseph. Say, as a beginner, is it advisable to learn backend and front end same time? Is this training coming to an end? Oh, so my advice to anyone trying to learn is that pick a field first. So if you're going to learn front end, ensure you're good with front end, then you progress to back end. So ensure you are done with one, then you progress to back end. Some people don't do is that they learn two or multiple things together, but it's best advisable learn one first, then you proceed to the other. There you get to have a stronger understanding of the fundamentals before you move to any other thing. Yeah, and also you asked, is the training coming to an end? Yes, the training is coming to an end. It is a 4-session training, and this is the week where you get to round up things. Do we have anyone with question again? Okay. Now Mr. Olakule Joseph is asking of JavaScript. Oh, so the material for this program, the fundamentals was just to tell us about HTML and CSS fundamentals. So if you're interested in learning JavaScript or proceed with your knowledge of web development, you can always reach out to Anetcom Technologies on that. But if you're asking if one should learn JavaScript with front end, yes, you still need JavaScript with front end. You need knowledge of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to be good with front end development. Okay, I'm not sure I get the question. Is it online learning this like this? Are you asking if it's a virtual class or something?
No, what I'm trying to ask is the class is it going to be like online or is it physical training?
Okay. We offer physical training as well as virtual training too.
Okay, okay.
So for those interested, we offer physical trainings as well as virtual trainings for all of our programs. So whichever you're interested, you can just reach out to Anetcom Technologies. You will have better understanding of each programs when you get someone that attends to you properly, so you get to understand everything. So any more question? Okay. So I think we don't have any question anymore. So like I said earlier, learning never stop. Okay, learning never stops. What can span tag be used for, and can it be used for styling? Okay, yeah, you can style your span tags too. You can use them for layout too on your HTML page. You can use your span for layout and as well apply styling to them. Just know every HTML tag that you use can also be used for layouts, it can be used for styling. Yes. So another thing about the span tag is that it's an inline container, it's an inline element. So it can be easily styled with CSS. So you can always style the span tag. So my dear developers, can we also use it for images on websites? You can't directly use image in a span tag, but you can nest your image tag inside a span tag if you want to do that.
So
Are you saying something?
yeah, I want to see if you can use the span tag in place of the in place of the flex box, the display flex for layout.
Okay, you're asking if you can use a span tag to
Yeah,
replace the flex box.
yes.
Okay.
Like for the navigation bar now, we can, like, if we want the links inside the navigation bar to be on one line, can we use the span tag instead of the flex box?
No, the span tag cannot replace the flex box. They serve different purposes. So the span tag is mainly an inline container with no layout
Okay.
by itself.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. So remember again that developers don't write the perfect code on their first attempts. It all happens with a lot of practice and practice and practice. And the difference between those who quit now and the successful developers we have is because the successful developers keep building and they never stop. So don't stop here. Continue to improve your portfolio. Build another great project. Then another, and another. Keep learning every day. Keep improving. So thank you all for your commitment throughout this training. And again, congratulations on completing the web development fundamentals. It's been a great journey with you guys. So, Frederick, you can drop your phone number in the chat for this Google Meet chat, as well as Josephine. So you were the two that were selected for the incentives based on the questions and answers. So you can drop the network alongside the mobile network service provider you're using alongside. So Frederick and Josephine, you can drop your phone number and the network that you're using alongside. Okay, so thank you all very much. And this is what we call it a day. Do enjoy the rest of the day and have a lovely journey as you continue your web development journey. Bye, guys.
Sir, hello?
Hey,
Mm.
yes,
Hello, sir. Okay, yes, I said about the certificate of participation.
yes.
You were going to elaborate more on that.
Okay, so the certificate is the price is around 2,000, but I believe every other necessary information will be passed to each group on the WhatsApp channel. You're on the WhatsApp, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so every other necessary information will pass there on the WhatsApp. So thank you very much.